Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to Authentic Black Goddess TV. I apologize for being so tardy, people. So as you're coming in, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. Be sure to click the notification bell and click the word all so that you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, on Instagram at divine_goddess_27, and on Twitter at dgoddess27. You can find my podcast on Anchor and Spotify. It's called Low Frequency Hurts. Hello, Sylvia, Carlos, Lee Harv, Michael, Kenla, Arkeithia, AV the Greats, Marietta, Goodness Radio Vote is Black. All right. So let's get started, people. I'm already late. I do apologize. Tonight we're going to be talking about a notorious killer. His name is Richard Kuklinski. Okay? Known as the Iceman. Hey, Monica. Now, that's okay, Queen. I hope you had a good day. Thank you, beloved. I hope you did too. You're so sweet. Now, with that all being said, let me just tell you a little bit about Richard Kuklinski. Now, some people call him a serial killer, but by definition, he actually is not a serial killer. Let me explain the difference. Now, you know I'm a serial killer expert. Okay. So, serial killers kill 3 or more people over a period of time, and they have a cooling off period in between. Which means like they could kill somebody today and they may not get the urge to kill somebody else until next month. And then after that, they may not want to kill somebody else until 3 or 6 months from then. So that's classified as a serial killer because of the amount of victims they kill over a period of time. And they have like time lapses in between. Now, Richard Kuklinski is not a serial killer because the one thing that he does that most serial killers don't do is he killed for money. Okay, he was a hitman. A hitman is not a serial killer. Serial killers don't go out here and kill people because they're getting paid to do so. They go out there and kill people because they have some type of personality flaw, whether they're psychopathic or sociopathic, and then that drives them and gives them the urge to go out and murder. Okay, because they get joy out of it. They experience euphoria from killing. All right, a hitman experiences joy from making the money. Now, with that all being said, Richard Kuklinski, had he not been getting paid for it, well, maybe he could have been classified as a serial killer. And maybe he was a serial killer that just got paid. Who knows? But he's not technically classified as one because he worked for the Mafia. Okay, he worked for the Gambino crime family, and he also worked for the DeMayo crew. Now, I know y'all think that's funny. DeMayo crew. Y'all know who I call that, right? That was literally the name of one of the Mafia crew that he worked for. Okay. And I'm going to be doing a true crime story on them next week. All right. He was from Bayonne, New Jersey, and from the border. Hello, all my wonderful royals and mods. Be on that with the trolls. Let me tell you something, people. Mods, let me tell you about the trolls. If the trolls put anything vulgar, disrespectful, whatever in the chats, before you delete them, before you delete their comments, screenshot it. Okay? Screenshot it and send it to my email. I'll tell you why later. All right? So with that all being said, let's get ready to get into it, people. Let me get my receipts up and get this other chat open. Real mayonnaise Hitman crew. Queen, you be too crunk. Thank you, LaMarcus. Yes, sometimes I do. I absolutely do. Okay. Now, hopefully this other chat would work. Okay, let's get the lights up, people. Let's go ahead and get the lights up. Now, I'm about to pull up my notes real quick. And I have some video that I'm going to show you that Richard Kuklinski did some interviews before he died. Okay. Do you want to see an option? Okay. Hold on, people. I'm getting this stuff set up. All right. When did now Instant Black TV? Why are you coming here with that BS already? He died in 2006. Oh my goodness, you all are terrible. I can't catch a break. Oh, okay, hold on. Let me get this started. Oh my goodness. Let me see something, people. Hold on, let me save something to my computer real quick. Okay. All right, people, here we go. Okay. Now, so as I said, Richard Kuklinski worked for the Mafia, right? He also started would kill on his own. Now, here's the thing. His wife and children, they supposedly didn't know anything about his life and what had been going on. And his wife was really kind of what I like to call Becky-splaining. She was sitting there talking about, after he was caught and in prison and all that, she was saying that, oh, I didn't know what he was doing and I never asked any questions. You knew not to ask. He told me that he told everybody he was a businessman. And so he would leave for long periods of time. And while he would be gone, she didn't know what he was doing. First of all, if your husband's doing something and you don't know what it is and he's not telling you, and you said yourself that you knew not to ask, I'm going to have to believe that you then knew that he was doing something nefarious. Now, you may not have known exactly what he was doing, but surely you knew he was doing something illegal. So miss me with that. And she's talking about, oh, I'm anti-violence, as are my children. Yeah, okay, please. Okay. So anyway, hold on, people. Uh-oh, hold on. Technical difficulties. Let me get this off the screen real quick. I'm going to have to pull this up another way. Okay, people. I'll figure that out in a second. But in the meantime, in between time, let's get to the receipts. Yes, they know they play dumb, so they don't get caught too. Yeah, right. Miss me with with that. Absolutely. Now, you know, she was married. This man was killing for over 30 years. The first person he killed, he was 18 years old. He was in a bar one night, and this young man had said something that embarrassed him in front of everybody. So he waited around, and when he saw his chance, he killed him. Okay? That was the first time he killed someone. Now, the spouse always say they didn't know they were committing these murders. But if your murderous significant other wants to stay out of certain rooms in the house, wants you to stay out, then that means something is wrong. Yes, and if they're gone for long periods of time, whose husband just ups and leaves for days at a time and simply tells you he's a businessman? What kind of business you talking about? Okay, please. So anyway, let's get to these receipts. He was 13. He killed a school bully. Who are you talking about, Lee Harv? You talking about Richard? No, he didn't kill nobody when he was 13. He killed the first person when he was an adult. If he killed anybody when he was 13, surely he would have been in juvenile detention. In fact, now he was bullied. He was bullied growing up. He was poor growing up. They lived in the projects. And he had a poor upbringing. His mother and father both were abusive. His father would come home and beat him for no reason. No, he didn't kill anybody when he was 13. You probably got him mixed up with Ted Bundy. Some people speculate that Ted Bundy killed somebody when he was 13 because a 15-year-old girl turned up dead in their neighborhood and they never solved the mystery. Years later, when they found out Ted Bundy was in fact a serial killer, they felt like he did it, but that was never proven or substantiated. This is the type of shite I see on the evil lives here. Yes, absolutely. How? By gun? Yes, he killed some of them by gun, but many of them he killed by cyanide poisoning. He had different methods that he liked to use. Okay, now, Operation Iceman nabs murderer Richard Kuklinski. Richard Kuklinski, a suspect in several murders, was arrested by undercover agents at a truck stop off of the New Jersey Turnpike, marking the culmination of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms task force known as Operation Iceman. This guy was so nefarious, they had to have an entire task force dedicated to bringing him down. But they want to say that Samuel Little, that 80-year-old man that died just weeks ago, that he was the most notorious killer in the United States. Please miss me with it. Now, anyway, not that he wasn't notorious, but he darn sure was not close to being the worst. I'm just saying. Now, Kuklinski had sealed his own fate when he showed operative Dominic Polifron how to poison a person with cyanide. Now, let me tell you about that. Dominic Polifron was an undercover operative, okay, who they sent to get in touch, to befriend him. And so Kuklinski just started running his mouth. He was telling the guy, because the guy had him thinking that he also worked for a crime family, okay? And by the fact that the guy was also Italian, he just took his word for it, right? So, but anyway, it didn't really matter because he was giving him all this information because he was going to kill the man anyway. So he felt like I can tell him whatever because I'm going to kill him anyway when it's all done. Okay, because Dominic actually came to Richard, the Iceman, came to him and said that he wanted someone dead and he wanted Richard to do it. So I would have gotten immediately suspicious because Dominic was asking too many darn questions. First of all, if you want me to kill somebody, why do you need to know how I'm going to do it, when I'm going to do it, where I'm going to do it? You asking too much. I would have already been suspicious. So, yeah, he was asking all these questions. He was like, so you're going to shoot him? He was like, no, he said, you're going to poison him with cyanide? He said, why not just shoot him? And then Iceman says, that's too messy. He said, why be messy when you can just do it nice and easy? So, and he knew all about cyanide poisoning. Now, any of you who don't know about cyanide, when you poison someone with cyanide, you can smell it smells like almonds, okay? If they are poisoned by cyanide, you'll usually be able, or the coroner, or the people on the scene will usually be able to smell almonds on their breath because it smells just like almonds. Now, you can put it in their drink or food or whatever, or the people sometimes make it into a mist, okay, like a liquid substance. And that's what Richard Kuklinski used to do. He would make it into a mess. He even told a story during one of his interviews where he said he had it in a cup, liquefied. He walked past this guy and poured it on him, like he spilled it on him. But he really poured it, but he acted like he bumped into him and spilled it. And then he said later, when the guy's friends saw him staggering, they didn't think anything of it because they were in a club. So they clearly thought he was drunk. And then the guy just ended up dying because the stuff is absorbed into your skin and into the bloodstream. Kuklinski kept his secret life hidden because everyone thought he was this good, decent guy. Yeah, exactly. That's how most mafia killers do, and a lot of serial killers do. A lot of people, when you find out about these serial killers, don't people always say, I thought he was such a nice guy? Clearly, they're very good at masquerading as something they aren't. Queen, how do I get your email? It's flashing across the screen, beloved. You see that banner that's flashing across there? It's on there. QueenAhmadiyyah at gmail.com. Okay, so now he told Dominic Polifrone how to poison a person with cyanide. Now, the first murder authorities were able to link Kuklinski to was that of George Melibrand, whom he shot over a debt in 1980. And then he stuffed the man's body into a drum. Now, let me tell you about this. So this man owed him money. And so he decides he wants to go get his money from him this day. So when he gets there, the man doesn't have it. And the man's trying to, the man told him before he got there that he didn't have it, and trying to run game on him or whatever. So he goes to the guy's house to talk about it. Now, he actually went there to kill him, but the guy probably thought he was coming to talk about it. So when he gets there, he said that when you look, he said, if there's a light on, you can literally look through someone's peephole and see if they're coming to the door. So he said the guy made the mistake of looking out the peephole, and he saw the guy looking out the peephole. So he just shot him through the door. Okay. And then he took the guy's body and put it in a 50-gallon drum and hid it behind a hotel. I think it was a hotel or a restaurant. But anyway, he hid it back there. And every day, I believe it was a restaurant, because every day he would go there to eat and he would still see that drum and nobody knew what was in it. And then one day he came there and the drum was gone. And he wondered where it was and who moved it, but he wasn't going to ask because he'd been telling on himself. Now, they say he killed him over a debt in 1980. He then stuffed Melibrand's body in a 55-gallon drum in Jersey City. In July of 1981, Kuklinski's partner, Louis Masgay, mysteriously disappeared on the eve of an illegal business transaction, but there was no evidence linking Kuklinski to the incidents. When his body turned up in September of 1983, authorities determined that Masgay had been shot in the head and kept frozen since the day of the disappearance. And his body was then dumped 2 years later. Now, that's another thing that he would do. When he killed Louis Masgay, he was supposed to be buying drugs. Masgay was supposed to buy drugs from him. This man, hold on, let me make sure. No, I'm sorry. Louis Masgay was one of his partners. Now, the reason he froze the body is to throw off the police from knowing the time of death. Okay, that's what he would do. He would take the body and hide it so they wouldn't know the time of death. He would freeze it for like 2 years and then dump it somewhere. And then by the time the police find the body, they would think the person just died like a couple of days ago. So that's one of the things he would do. Now, they go on to say, when his body turned up in September of 1983, authorities determined that Masgay had been shot in the head and kept frozen since the day of his disappearance. His body was then dumped 2 years later. Now, in 1982, Archangel said, smart move. Mary said he preserved. Well, let me tell y'all something, though. The reason he killed that guy, Masgay, that is the guy he killed over the drugs. That was his business partner that he was dealing with. But this guy was actually a pharmacist. Okay? He was a pharmacist. And what happened was he was trying to buy some type of drug that he wanted to sell. It was supposed to be really good for, what was it? It was a drug called Tagament. It was called Tagament, right? And it was supposed to be good for to treat something. I can't remember what he wanted it for, but he wanted to buy like $25,000 worth because he felt he could make a lot of extra money by using it. And so when he went there, he asked Kuklinski, he said he had the money in a bag and he showed him all the money. So once Kuklinski knew he had that money, it was a wrap. And so the guy asked him, what am I going to do with all this product? And Kuklinski said, there is no product. And so he took the gun and put it under his chin. But when he fired the gun, it jammed. It misfired. So he ended up shooting him, but he didn't kill him. And so he said the guy had blood coming all out of his mouth and stuff. He said he was, moaning, so he could tell he was in a lot of pain. And at that time, he picked up a tire iron and hit him in the head till he killed him. This dude had people in circles and would box them up 2 years later. Yeah, he was doing all kind of stuff. Okay, so now listen to this. In 1982, Kuklinski joined Dan Deppner and Gary Smith in a scam to steal cars. But because he apparently believed Deppner and Smith to be inept crooks, meaning he didn't think they were very smart, Kuklinski decided to kill them in order to protect himself. So after he done used them to run the scam, then he kills them because he thinks they're going to get him caught. Now, in a northern New Jersey hotel, Kuklinski poisoned Smith's hamburger and then stuffed the dead body under the bed. Now, despite the fact that other guests had rented the room in the meantime, Smith was not discovered for 4 days. Now, those people in that hotel room, they had to be drunk or high. Because you mean to tell me it's a dead body been in there and it was hot outside. It's a dead body under the bed for 4 days and nobody smelled nothing. So in May of 1983, a plastic bag containing Dan Deppner's body was discovered near a tree in northern New Jersey. Because he was believed to have died from cyanide poisoning, police were convinced that Kuklinski was behind the series of murders, and they decided to institute a sting operation. Kuklinski was later taped discussing cyanide's efficacy as a murder weapon, saying it's quiet, it's not messy, it's not even noisy. You can spray it in someone's face and they just go to sleep. That's why he would make it into a mist. You can just spray it in your face. You're going to inhale it. Now, at his trial in 1987, Kuklinski argued that Smith and Deppner had not been killed with poison. Indeed, it was difficult to prove murder by cyanide, since the poison leaves few traces behind. Now, here's the thing. Smith, the one that died and he hit him under the bed in the hotel room, he almost wouldn't have gotten caught for that. The only reason he got caught is because when he gave the man the cyanide, he didn't die right away like he expected him to. So he chose to strangle the man also. Now, when they saw the body, the coroner was able to tell that someone had crushed the bones in his throat and that he had in fact been strangled. That's what made them deem it a homicide. And then they started doing a toxicology report and checking other things and found out that he'd been also been given cyanide poisoning. Now, had he not choked him, they likely wouldn't, as they said, have done a toxicology report, and they would have just felt like, okay, he probably died from a drug overdose because of the activity that was going on at the hotel. QR agent said, damn, he's impatient. Okay, now, it's hard to prove murder by cyanide since the poisoning leaves few traces behind. Nonetheless, the prosecution managed to prove Kuklinski's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, and he was sentenced to life imprisonment. Okay? Mayo mania. Oh, you all are so crazy. Hold on, people. I got to figure out how to get this open. Hold on. Hold on. I'm going to show y'all some of the crime pictures. And then also, I'm going to let y'all hear the killer speak because I want y'all to hear how calmly he talks and everything. Very nefarious, to say the least. Okay, let me try this again, people. Can you all see that? Can you all see that? Put yes in the chats if you can see it. If not, put no. Hello, Dominique Devereaux. Can you all see that? It doesn't matter. I'm going to read it to you anyway. Okay, so Richard Kuklinski lived basically a Jekyll and Hyde existence. Okay, good. You can see. Okay, thank you. He lived basically a Jekyll and Hyde existence because he was a family man during the day, and then he would go out and kill during the night. He had his, and during the money that he made from the 70s to the 80s, he actually had built up a lot of wealth for himself. And so he and his family, his wife and children, they lived in a nice home in a very nice neighborhood. And like I said, the neighbors just thought he was simply a businessman. Okay, now he was born April the 11th of 1935, and he died March the 5th of 2006. He was a notorious contract killer, is what he would be described as, not a serial killer. Now, as I told you, his parents were both violent, and he was bullied as a kid. He had like a traumatizing childhood, never shown love, and things like that. With that being said, I think that is what led him to be such a cold-blooded person and to be a killer. So that would make him a sociopath, not a psychopath, because a sociopath becomes that way and has no conscience because they are, you know, something traumatic happens to them during childhood usually, or later on in life, but usually during childhood. A psychopath is just born that way. So he's clearly a sociopath. And also, the only time I saw him show remorse was during his interview when he talked about his family. He said that he hurt the people that he loved. He said, I'm not recanting. He says, I'm not, being remorseful. I'm only sorry that I hurt the only people that care about me. That's what he said. So he clearly didn't give a crap about those people he killed nor their families. Okay. Now, December of 1986, Richard Kuklinski was arrested outside of his Dumont home and charged with 5 murders. Now, listen, here's the thing. He was such a big dude, right? He was like 6'4" and he weighed 300 pounds. With that being said, the police admitted that it took like 6 of them to bring him down to the ground because he was a big dude. Okay, must have been putting up a struggle. I find it very interesting. This man was wanted for multiple murders and poisonings and all of that, and he was big as I don't know what, but the police didn't shoot him. Pay attention. It took 6 of them to bring him down, so clearly he was resisting arrest. I'm just saying, but he lived to tell the tale. Okay, now, as I said, he was arrested and charged with 5 murders. Okay, March 1988, Kuklinski is convicted of murdering 2 underlings in his burglary ring. One was Daniel E. Deppner and Gary T. Smith, both of Vernon. And then he had the total range of time they suspect he had been killing was from 1949 to 1986. And he got a life sentence in 1988. Now, they say the number of victims that they put him at was, in fact, 6. Because remember, he killed the one person when he was 18, and then he killed the other 5 that he was accused of and charged with. He killed them later. But they suspect that he killed almost 200 people altogether. When they asked him while he was in prison already, how many does he think that he killed? He said it was over 100. He said that himself. And let's not forget that he was not only killing people by himself, he had formed his own crime gang. Okay? His own crime family or whatever, and they were killing people too. Okay, so there was Charlie Lane. Charlie was murdered in 1949. That was the young man he killed when he was 18. And then George Malibran. George was 42. He was murdered January 31st of 1980. Then you have Peter Calabro. Peter was murdered March 14th of 1980. You have Louis Masgay. Louis was 50. That's the pharmacist who he set him up and told him he was going to sell him the Tanaget, the drug, and then he was going to pay him $25,000. But they say Kuklinski used to do that all the time. When he wanted to kill people, he would always set them up with a fake business transaction and then get them there and murder them. Now, Louis Masgay was 50 years old. He was murdered in July of 1981. They didn't find his body till 1983, remember. Now, Paul Hoffman, age 51, was murdered on April the 29th of 1982. Gary Smith, Depner Dan, they both died. Hold on. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's something else. Okay, so Kuklinski died March the 5th of 2006. He was 70 years old, and he died in Trenton, New Jersey. Now, he has 2 sons from his first marriage, 2 daughters, and he was charged and convicted of 5 counts of murder, but suspected to have been involved in more than 100. Okay, some of the other names that he went by are the Polak, Big Rick, and the Iceman. Now, this is a body of one of the victims, a crime scene photo. As you can see, this next person's body, this is going to be Louis Masgay, the pharmacist whom he killed, and then froze his body. Okay, it says he disappeared in 1981 to go to a guy to sell him a large amount of videotapes at a discounted price. With him, he had $100,000 in cash. Later, his van was found empty, and he was nowhere to be found. Now, in September of 1983, a body was found in a woodland area, and the body had been carefully. You know what? I'm sorry. It's a good thing I'm reading this because I gave you all the wrong information. Louis Masgay was not the pharmacist. This was the person who met him for another deal because he used to do this all the time. He actually hid this person's body out in the woods after he froze it for 2 years. Then when he got ready to dump it, he dumped it in the woods. That's another thing. He said that sometimes he would want people to be found and he would just leave them where they lay, put them on a park bench. He said there were some people found on park benches. He said, but if he didn't want the person to be found, he would hide the bodies. And then he said to throw people off, sometimes the police especially, he would freeze the bodies or whatever. That's how he got the nickname Iceman when he killed Masgay, because this is like one of the first people he froze. Okay, so in 1983 of September, a body was found in a woodland area. The body had been carefully closed up with 15 to 20 layers of plastic bags. After the medical examiner removed the bag, he found that the man had been killed with a single shot in the back of his head. However, while the corpse had been decomposing for some time, the medical examiner got curious due to some of the composition that was not in the usual way. So in the man's heart, there were ice crystals. He had ice crystals in his heart. And he came to the conclusion that the body had been frozen for a long period of time before it was dumped. The victim wore the same clothes as he had on the day he left his family. It was after much debate and later Kuklinski's own admission that it was concluded that the man in question was Masgay, Louis Masgay. It's because of the killing of Masgay and how he was stored that earned Kuklinski his now famous nickname as the Iceman. And this is the man's body right here. Now, in 1986, Kuklinski was arrested and charged in connection with the murders. The first, George Malibran band, was killed in 1980 after he met with Kuklinski. And then the second was Louis Masgay, who sought a videotape deal. Now, he was last seen in 1981 and was partially decomposed body was discovered 15 months later. Okay. Then the body of Daniel Depner, another member of the burglary gang, was found the following year. He had also been poisoned. The body of Paul Hoffman, who disappeared in 1982 after trying to buy prescription drugs, that was the pharmacist, okay? That was the one who tried to buy prescription drugs, Paul Hoffman. After trying to buy prescription drugs from Kuklinski, he was never located. After Smith's body was discovered, a 6-year investigation ensued, and Kuklinski was arrested in 1986 after agreeing to help a federal undercover agent murder a fictitious man, because the investigator made it all up. Now, in 1988, he was found guilty of the charges related to the murders of Smith and Debner. He later pled guilty to the murders of Maliband and Masgay. He also confessed to the murder of Kaufman, but no charges in that case were dropped. Kuklinski was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms of life imprisonment. In 2003, he also entered a plea of guilty for the 1980 murder of New York City police detective Peter Calabro. So he even killed a cop, but they only gave him life sentences. He didn't get murdered. Pay attention. So while in prison, Kuklinski gave numerous interviews to psychiatrists, criminologists, journalists, and writers, telling the story of his life and providing detailed descriptions of how and why he committed dozens of murders. Now, in later interviews, he claimed to have killed increasing numbers of victims, many of them members of organized crime. But investigators largely regarded the assertions as dubious. The interviews resulted in 3 television documentaries, one called The Iceman Tapes, one called Conversations with a Killer in 1992, and then The Iceman Confesses, Secrets of a Mafia Hitman in 2001, and The Iceman and the Psychiatrist in 2003, and 2 biographies, one called The Iceman, The True Story of a Cold-Blooded Killer in 1993 by Anthony Bruno, and The Iceman, Confessions of a Mafia Contract Killer in 2006 by Philip Carlo. Now, Bruno's book and the first documentary were the basis of the 2012 motion picture called The Iceman. That's the one that I saw. And then he killed a man on Christmas Eve. Now, listen to this, you all. There was one man that he killed on Christmas Eve. The man owed him money, and he went to go talk to him and see him about the money he owed. So, you know, that's the guy who peeped through the door, right? And he shot him and killed him, and then took his body and hid him. And he said it ticked him off because the guy pretty much acted as though he couldn't be touched. Clearly, he didn't know who he was messing with. So after he killed him, they said, well, what did you do with him? He said, well, I put him in the trunk of my car, or put him in the trunk of his car, somebody's trunk. But anyway, they said, what did you do then? He says he went home and started putting together Christmas toys for his kids. And then he saw it on the news broadcast later that they found the man's body in the trunk of the car. So the interviewer asked him, how did he feel? He said he felt annoyed because he couldn't put the wagon together that he was putting together for the kids. So he clearly didn't give a crap about that man's body being found. He wasn't nervous or any of that. He said he was annoyed because he couldn't put a wagon together. First of all, you know you have to be cold-blooded. You go out and kill somebody on Christmas Eve. And then he said, yeah, he didn't live to see Christmas. But you can kill him on Christmas Eve. Then you can go home and pack your, wrap your children's Christmas gifts. Okay? Clearly, he was nefarious. So that's real crazy, people. Oh, shoot, I'm watching on my TV, sweet pea. No, he didn't care who he killed or any of that. Michael Corleone would say his hits weren't personal. It was strictly business. He formed the Modern Murder Incorporated. He took over the High Lord executioner Albert Anastasia. Where's Jimmy Hoffa? Carl Chris, you have too many questions. Talking about where's Jimmy Hoffa? He could have killed him too. Your black skin is off the chain. I love my black people. Thank you, LaMarcus. So he didn't eat nobody. No, Kenla. He wasn't into cannibalism, unlike Jeffrey Dahmer, no less, right? So anyway, let me play you all some of the video of him talking. Let me go to the part that I want you all to hear first. And let me read my fair use disclaimer. Okay. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is use permitted by copyright statute that may otherwise be infringing.
Owed a lot of money. Well, I guess considerable amount of money. He thought he could hide behind a door. It was a nice door, expensive door. Anyway, most people don't realize that when you come to answer a door, if there's light in the background, the person on the outside can look through the peephole and see the guy coming to the door. So he came to the door. I asked who it was, and he looked through the peephole. And he never saw what hit him.
For Richard Kuklinski, murder had become a way of life, and the macabre became the commonplace.
Would you ever use a chainsaw? I mean,
To cut someone up? Yes. I've done that. To dismember them, yes. Not to kill them, no.
what was it like to cut somebody up with a the other guy was dead? How did it feel to cut some guy up with a chainsaw?
I didn't have any feeling one way or the other. That just happened. That's the way it had to be.
Messy.
Yes. Yes, it was.
Did it make you sick?
No. I've had requests where the guy wanted the guy's tongue cut out. And he also wanted his tongue put in his rear end. So I believe there was a definite point he wanted to get across. I haven't experienced it. I don't know if I should tell you that it probably would offend a lot of people. I don't know. I don't think I should. I'll go into that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's not a good one.
No, go ahead. Come on.
There was a man, he was begging and pleading and praying, I guess. And he was pleased God and all over the place. So I told him he could have a half hour to pray to God. And if God could come down and change the circumstances, he'd have that time. But God never showed up. And he never changed the circumstances.
Okay. Now, let me say this. You all see he doesn't seem like he has any remorse. Let me say this. Jason said in the chat that John Alight's former Gotti Gambino hitman laughed and said this guy was a joke and heavily exaggerated being a mafia hitman. A real "are you kidding me" reaction. He has a YouTube channel with many interviews. Let me say this. It sounds like he's the one lying. You mean to tell me John Alight is a former Gotti hitman? So he was a hitman doing the same thing he's claimed to have done. And he has a YouTube channel and does interviews. Please make that make sense. Now, if anybody's lying, clearly it's him. And this man didn't start telling about his murders until he was already caught. By then, the police already suspected him in numerous murders. So apparently he was doing some killing, okay? And not to mention the police had evidence, and that's how they caught him. Also, there were so many people he suspected of killing. That's why they had to start a task force just to bring down one man. So this John Elite, a former Gambino hitman, how does he have a YouTube channel and why isn't he in prison? I'm just curious. He has no remorse. He has no human emotion in him. Absolutely. He is too calm. His fate is made. Yes, he said he didn't have remorse, people. Let me let you all see this part. I'm going to skip ahead to the 40-minute mark, because he talks a little more. Hold on. This is where his wife is Becky explaining. Hold on. And then I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. That's his wife. Hold on. That's not what I want to show. Hold on. Hold on, people.
Okay, I came from New York. Hey, boy, fill my tray. So I got this long metal spoon. I'm filling the compartment with the beans or whatever it was, and it's starting to drip over. So I stop. And he looks at me and he says, he throws everything on the counter. And he said, boy, when I tell you whoop it on me, you whoop it on me. And he's got an empty tray and he puts it back out. Whoop it on me, huh? And I whack him with the spoon in the head. And he goes flying back. But I wasn't all that smart because the next two guys were his friends. And his
Hold on, people. That was Sammy the Bull Gravano. I don't know how he got on here. Oh, the snitch.
6, a division of the New Jersey Criminal Justice Department.
You better parent at later points in the investigation that Mr. Kuklinski fully intended on murdering Dominic Polifrone in addition to the victims that were being discussed at the time they were having these tape recorded conversations. So he could pretty much tell Dominic Polifrone anything because he knew shortly that he had plans for Mr. Polifrone too.
You put that stuff in a mist, you spray it in somebody's face, and they go to sleep. No shit. As long as he's dead, that's the bottom line. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? No matter how it was done. I mean, I know guys that went to sleep and never woke up again. I mean, you know.
He says he had one guy, he went and get a hamburger, they come back and he put the cyanide on his hamburger. And we're sitting down and he's telling me, he says, you wouldn't believe it. He says, I'm waiting for this guy to keel over. He says, because once you eat cyanide, usually you'd roll over and that's it. He says, this guy had the constitution of a fucking bull. He says, you wouldn't believe it. He says he wouldn't die. And we're both laughing about this. And I'm saying in the back of my mind, I said, holy God. I said, look at this. I said, what kind of person is this? I said to myself right there, I said, you better cover your butt. I said, because you just don't know with this guy. And he'd be kidding about it, and I'd be laughing. In the back of my mind, I'm saying, this is the devil. No question about it, this is the devil.
On December 17th, 1986, the Special Task Force set up a roadblock and arrested Richard Kuklinski outside his home in Dumont, New Jersey. They felt they had all the evidence they needed for a conviction.
The whole road was blocked off with cops.
Okay. So there you have it, people. You see he didn't have any remorse, right? None whatsoever. And he was laughing after he poisoned that man with cyanide and the man didn't even die. Yep, another devil with skin. Absolutely. Yes, he does serve Satan. Absolutely. Because how could you do all of that murdering and killing and you have no empathy, sympathy, or remorse? It's all crazy. But anyway, like I told you all, I'm going to be doing a report on the DeMayo crew next week. That is one of the Mafia crews that he worked for, because he was often employed by the Mafia to act as a hitman and go out to kill people for them. Made a lot of money doing it too. And they asked him during the interview, how much did he charge for doing it? He didn't say the exact amount, but he said he charged the higher side of 5 figures, not the lower side. Okay? So with that all being said, nothing but killers. Absolutely, Paris. So with that all being said, that has been your True Crime Saturday episode. I'm going to go ahead and conclude this broadcast. Queen, you be on it. Thank you, LaMarcus. Thank you. LOL, the Mayo crew. Yes, it's called DeMayo. DEMEO, but it's pronounced DeMayo. Yes, DeMayo crew. That's literally who they call themselves. I love it. So that all being said, I'd like to thank you all for tuning back in once again to Authentic Black Goddess TV. Make sure that you like and share the video. Please get the thumbs up. Also, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure that you tune back in tomorrow. I'm going to be going live at 1 o'clock. Okay, that's probably the only live I'm going to do tomorrow, but it'll be about 1 o'clock. So with that all being said, I wish you all love, peace, and prosperity. Enjoy the rest of this evening. And until next time, Royals, I will talk to you all again soon.